Hello, and welcome to Sensible Practice. Today, we're going to be talking about leading change in a business environment. So let's jump in really quick. So the topics in this video that I'll cover today, we'll talk about defining change, the change management, what is it, what's the textbook version, and then what is the sensible practice version. We'll deep dive into roles and responsibilities for change, and then the most important aspects of kicking off a change project. So I love this quote from Warren Bennis, which is, in life, change is inevitable. In business, change is vital. That could not be more true. I've been with the same company for almost 20 years, and I'm still learning new things and staying challenged due to the continual change in our organization. So yes, change is vital when it comes to business. So the textbook definition of change management from our reliable source, Wikipedia, change management is a collective term for all approaches to prepare, support, and help individuals, teams, and organizations in making organizational change. I want to point out a few words in this definition really quick. So when you look at the definition here, when it says individuals and teams, so change is all about the people side of projects. So when you're looking at it, when you're doing a project as a project manager, a lot of the times you're focused really on the deliverables, the activities of getting to the end of the project. Change management comes in when you need to think about how this change and all of these different things that you're rolling out and implementing from your project, how's that going to impact the people? What is going to change for them? How do you make them understand, what's going to be different? What does that future state look like for them? So that's what I wanted to point out here. As far as from the sensible practice definition of change management, my definition is a little more simplified and practical, I feel like, but I did break it out into different bullets here because I feel like, when you have it broken out, change is, inclusive of a lot of things. So just wanted to point out all of the things that it includes. So change management is the analysis of how a project will impact the people, like I just said previously. It's a simple view of what the change will look like in the future. So what is that full picture and what is that future vision of, what it is that you're implementing? It's also the documentation of why employees may not want to accept this change. So what is it that could cause them to resist this change and why would they want to not do it? And then change is also answering that question for them. What is the why? And it's organizing the unknown for people, I feel like, to help them understand. And it's simple communication throughout the project to really build awareness around what's happening. How are we rolling this rock, pushing this rock up the hill, as in this image here to the right. And then why it's happening to them. What's motivating to the people, and how do we get them to, rally around this change? Help us roll that rock up the hill. All right. So we want to make sure that everybody understands roles and responsibilities as it comes to your change project. This is really important as it pertains to ensuring that people understand what they are expected to do, and that you're not having everybody just step on each other's toes. I've run into that a lot over the years where people didn't realize that there was, someone else that was supposed to do a certain task, or that, they would communicate things that they thought were going on when in fact it wasn't their specific position to communicate certain things, or they didn't have the full picture. Whatever the situation might be, it's real important to understand the role and what you play in a project, and also in the change management project. So let's jump into it here. So the roles of a change management project. You have your sponsor. Well, first of all, there's 5 specific roles that are the most important when it comes to change management. You have your sponsor, the change manager, you have project teams that are actually going to be delivering, and performing the actual task. They're the doers. Then you have your influencers, which are better known as the mid-level managers or supervisors or team leads, whoever that might be. And then you also have those who are the most impacted by the change, which would be the employees. All right. So let's deep dive into the sponsor. And I'm calling this one out individually from the rest of them, because the sponsor is the most important role of the change management project. It's the most important, but it can also be the most challenging. A sponsor is the cheerleader for your project. So you want to think of them as maybe, that proud mom at a baseball game who is constantly cheering on her son or daughter. Their baby is out there and they want everybody to know who their baby is. So that is basically how you want to think about, a change, a sponsor of the change project. They are there to motivate everyone else to cheer on, this team, and to support anything that the team needs, knock down the barriers. But anyway, we call them the change champion. And although not to be confused with, um, you know, champions of the project, because you can have several change champions, um, along the way as you gain buy-in for the project. But the sponsor is the primary champion. Like I said, they support everything about the change. They listen and participate in the project meetings. They communicate and motivate others. They are the first to adopt the change. Therefore, they're leading by example. They continue to be visible and passionate about the change. So, like I said, this person should be, someone with a lot of energy, a lot of influence. They are approachable, so people feel comfortable sharing how they really feel, and what some of their concerns might be around the change. They also should be the type of person that builds trust easily. The sponsor also removes barriers for the team. They are responsible for the budget. Um, so basically, they pretty much own this project team, to ensure that we are crossing the finish line with that trophy in hand. This person is the number one when it comes to the roles for change management. So let's jump into the rest of the team. So when you look at the rest of the team, again, you have the 4 others. You have your change manager, similar to a project manager. The change manager is usually someone close to the project. They may be, either a supervisor or manager potentially in a certain area that's going to be impacted the most. They authorize change plans and activities. They motivate and create adoption of solutions, and they are the voice for the impacted employees. And also they're responsible for communication to the stakeholders that are within their area. So, in addition to the change manager, you have project teams who will also have a project manager on that project team. So it can get a little bit confusing, but as we get more into the content of this channel, you'll be able to see how some of these overlap when you're thinking about change management and project management. The key will be to ensure that we integrate and figure out ways to cross pollinate and communicate effectively across the different areas. So anyway, project teams, this team is responsible for creating the solution. So while you have the change manager who is responsible to get everyone moved over or get that adoption of the change, motivate people, get them to figure out what impacts they might have, that sort of thing. You've got the project teams who are actually creating whatever it is that they're going to be implementing, right? So your project team develops and implements the task on the plan. They're the doers. Like I said before, they are the doers. They collaborate with the change manager to understand key deliverables. They document project success, and they deploy the solution to the employees. Again, they're deploying the solution to the employees, but they're also working with the change manager to ensure that the schedule is right, that they're rolling it out based on a change schedule. Has there been training? Has there been awareness? Do they have all the right technology that's necessary? All of the things that go into ensuring that the employee is going to be ready when deployment occurs. That all has to be coordinated between the change manager and the project manager. But we'll go into that in another session. I could go on and on. So let's talk about mid-level leaders. That's, again, could be managers, supervisors, team leads, anybody that's leading a group of people. These are your change advocates. So advocates meaning they are supposed to lead by example. They are there to ensure that the communication about the change is filtered down to their staff. They're there to share details of the processes that are going to be changing or the areas of opportunities that they see where this change will benefit the group. And then managers should be helping their employees adapt to the change by managing the questions that they have, listening to them, facilitating the transition. They should also be, empathetic. There's a lot of people who are very scared of change, and that is natural. It's natural to fear change. But like we said before, with the quote that we had, change is vital to a business area. So we definitely need to be empathetic as leaders of the organization to how our employees are feeling about the change, listen, and then help them through the change and ensuring that they get comfortable with it. And lastly, we have the employee. So, their role basically is to understand what is changing, ask questions about how this is going to impact them. They need to speak up. And, if there's something that's being overlooked by the change manager or by the project team, they should speak up and share as much detail as they can. I know I've run across many times where someone feels like they have all of the knowledge, and if they share their knowledge, then they're going to lose their job. that is not the case. I mean, the thing is, the more information that you can share, the better off you and the company are going to be, because you're going to be able to expand your skill set. You're going to be able to help others in understanding, how this is going to be impacting them and what is changing, and maybe even, given the opportunity to build out the new way of working. So, uh, but again, I think, you do have folks who are scared about the change. Again, just learn as much as you can about what's happening before you decide that you're going to deny the change or be a resistor. And then, just engage in the collaboration, engage in the conversation. Again, ask questions and help your peers understand why you might have some hesitancy, or why you think it's great. Not everybody is hesitant, but just share and talk about it. All right, moving on to the next. Okay, so the most important activities to start a change project. So you want to be able to communicate. Also, the analysis and assessment is very important. Building that trust, which I talked about during the responsibilities. And then also that sponsor engagement. That's going to be real important for you if you are, if I'm speaking to you as a change leader or the change manager. Your role is to ensure that this sponsor came at top, that this sponsor is fully engaged and participating in, the team meetings, that they are, engaged at every level of the project, so that way they can then transition some of the communication, the messaging, understand what's happening at all levels of the project, so that if they're asked, or if they're stopped in the elevator or on the street or wherever, depending on where your work locations are, they have the understanding of what is happening, why it's happening, who it's happening to, the impacts that it could be bringing, and all of that good stuff. So sponsor engagement is a big one for the change manager to ensure that they are very engaged. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into these 4 activities, because these are very important as you start to kick off your change projects. So communication. What you're going to need to do with communication, you'll need to build out a communication plan. So it's not just about one email, or about having that one big meeting with the stakeholders, or that kickoff discussion. A communication plan is in depth. It's about what are the schedule of events that are going to be taking place over the course of the project. What is it that you want to communicate throughout the project? The what's important in each of those messages, and who is the audience that you're communicating to. So there might be different communications that go to different audiences. That's something you need to include in the communication plan. Also, when are you going to send out this communication, and how? What is the channel that you're going to message the people about whatever it is that you're going to message them about? Is it going to be through social media? Is it going to be email? Is it going to be, on instant message, a meeting, a memo? However you want to be able to send this message out, you need to have that on a plan, so that you know when, what, how, and who your audience is. So just remember the when, what, how, and who for this section. Next is the analysis and assessment. And again, this is just a high level. We will be going into each of these throughout different modules, but I wanted to throw in here these specific, just high level things about each of these, because they are the nuts and bolts of a change project. So again, performing a gap analysis and assessment for your change project. First, you're going to need to know who are your stakeholders, right? Who is it that is going to be impacted the most by this change? Because when you're, looking across your organization, you're not going to be communicating to people that aren't going to be impacted by this because they don't really care. You're going to want to understand who are the key people that you need to be working with, who needs to gain buy-in, and you know um, so anyway, just figuring out who those people are, who needs to know. And again, we will go over the details of a stakeholder analysis in a later module. You'll also want to understand what the end state looks like, and what success looks like for your project. So, just think about, I guess it's more like a strategy plan. So what is your change going to look like long term when it's all done? And then you back into that with, how do you measure success of that? What is it that you're going to be able to measure to show that you met that future state that you defined? Um, so so that is very important as well. And again, we'll go over that. Um, and then completing the change size and business readiness analysis. This is a fun part, I think, where you really start to figure out, what is the complexity of your change project. You ask a lot of questions about the current state of the organization, and where, well, the organization and the change project. So you understand the scope of the change, how how many departments is it going to impact? Is it multiple systems that are going to be impacted? And then when you think about the business readiness, you think about, what is the company's capacity to be able to take on this change? Do they have enough resources to do this change? Have they had positive or negative experiences in the past with change projects or projects in general? Do they have the budget? Maybe they didn't think that this technology was going to cost millions of dollars, when they initially engaged with it. Just all of those things add up to a score. And this score is then mapped out on a risk assessment. And so that's something we'll get into in another module as well. But, just gives you an idea of what has happened in previous change projects, what things, how things are going to look with this one. And it just gives you an idea of how to learn about, what's needed for change. Is it going to require, a real high touch, type of change manager, or is this going to be something that's low touch or medium touch or whatever? So just keep that in mind as you're going through the analysis and assessment, and make sure that you document all of the observations as you're going through this section. Ask lots of questions to the stakeholders. It's just really just more of a due diligence. Get all your details, understand the current state, and then, just really start to dig in on that research piece. Building trust. So this one can be difficult for some people. I don't know why, but it can. I think it's natural. It's a natural skill that few people just seem to have from birth. They're able to get along with anybody they meet. They're able to, just, talk off the top of their head about anything. They're just really true influencers, energetic, passionate about everything that they do. Again, I just think that there's some people that, it's just a skill of being able to easily talk to people. And sometimes it's about being a good storyteller. Some people just are able to tell good stories. They just have that knack. We have a neighbor that is really good at telling stories. I keep telling him I'm going to write a book about him because All of his all of his stories are so funny, and he's just so engaged as he's expressing how the story pans out. And he is a salesman too, so it's perfect when you think about telling a story to people and how you want them to be in it with you. So that's really all about building trust. I think it has a lot to do with how you tell the story, how you engage with people, how you connect with people. And just so a few tips if you're not like this, if you're not that true influencer or somebody that's had a hard time with this in the past. I think a few tips would be just that visibility, making sure that you are visible to the people on your team, to your stakeholders, to your sponsor specifically, big time. You have to be like very connected to your sponsor. You need to be, if visibility is an issue face to face, I mean, virtual is good. A lot of people these days are working from home. I myself I've worked from home for over 10 years. I love it. But there are things that, being virtual just does not, fit the bill for. So you do have to do that face to face thing. Meet with with your stakeholders often. I would say at least once a week to inform them on what's happening, see if they have any concerns, sharing the next steps, what's going on the following week. All of that good stuff has to be shared with your stakeholders regularly. I would pinpoint who you think would be a good person to establish a relationship with from the project team and really start to be buddy-buddy with that person, understand, what connections or influence they might have, so that way it helps to build your trust as well, because you're friends with that person or you're, really connected with that person. So it speaks a lot when it comes to, like who you communicate with and who you are, related to. So let's see. Another thing is make note of who you think is going to cause issues. This is a big one as well. So if you think there's somebody that's going to cause issues, make sure you address that head on, because if you don't, your team will notice. You're not the only one that will notice that there's somebody that could cause conflict. They notice as well. So if you don't take anything out of this entire course, take this out of it, which is address your conflicts head on, because if it affects the team. If you've ever heard of the saying, if you have one bad apple, it's going to ruin the rest. That is totally true as well when it comes to managing people, when it comes to leading teams, project teams. You have to make sure that you address those who are, going to bring everybody else down or impact the success of your project. All right. And then sponsor engagement. This one, I think I've gone over the sponsor pretty well through this module, but one of the things is just definitely know that your role, if I'm talking to you as a change leader, your role is to ensure that that sponsor is fully engaged and aware of everything that's happening. They need guidance from you to know what story to tell, how and when to tell it, when to communicate it, and they also need to know to be present in the different team meetings and stuff. So picking the right sponsor is number one. Again, you want someone that is high enough in the hierarchy to make decisions. They can influence their peers, those other decision makers, and they can remove the roadblocks that you're going to have along the way. And let's see, if the sponsor is new to the project, meaning that it's not something that was their idea. A lot of the times you're going to have a sponsor come to you with an idea and they're going to be all in because it was their idea. But if for some reason it's not their idea and you are the one, you will have to influence the sponsor up front to get them to buy into this idea since it was not their own. So again, what is it? What's in it for them? And what are all the details? So you'll be the one, who's that influencer. So ultimately, find a sponsor who is high energy and make a plan to keep them engaged. Simple as that, right? All right. Well, that is the end of this module. If you want to learn more and benefit from my experiences in the corporate environment, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I hope you got a lot out of this. Thank you very much.